U.S. President Donald Trump has urged unity to fight against anti-Semitism, a day after a stabbing attack on a rabbi's house in New York State. "We must all come together to fight, confront, and eradicate the evil scourge of anti-Semitism," he said. At least 5 people were injured in the attack in Monsey, north of New York City on Saturday. The attacker was later arrested in New York's Harlem area. He has since been charged with attempted murder. Witnesses said the attacker burst into the house, which was hosting a Hanukkah celebration, pulled out a large knife and began attacking people. Guests reportedly threw tables and chairs at the man, who then attempted to enter a synagogue next door before fleeing in a car. However, his vehicle registration was passed to police and license plate scanners picked up the car as it entered New York City, where he was detained. Police have named him as Grafton Thomas, 37, of Greenwood Lake, New York. He has been charged with 5 counts of attempted murder and 1 count of burglary, the Associated Press reports. What are New York authorities saying about the attack? State Governor Andrew Cuomo has described the attack as domestic terrorism. Hatred based on race, color and creed was an American cancer spreading in the body politic, the governor told a news conference on Sunday. He called for a domestic terrorism law in the state to prosecute such crimes. He described the attack as very disturbing, but said it was not an isolated incident, adding that hostility based on race, religion and immigration status was spreading across the country. "It is domestic terrorism. These are people who intend to create mass harm, mass violence, and generate fear based on race, color, creed. That is the definition of terrorism," he said. "Just because they don't come from another country doesn't mean they are not terrorists. They should be prosecuted as domestic terrorists. We are not going to let this poison spread. No one else can defeat this county, but this country can defeat itself," he added. The attack came a day after New York police said officers were stepping up patrols in heavily Jewish districts following a spate of anti-Semitic threats and attacks. 2 of the victims were still in hospital, police said. What happened? A man brandishing a machete attacked a Hanukkah celebration at the rabbi's property in Monsey, an area with a large population of ultra-Orthodox Jews. The incident happened at about 2200 on Saturday, 3 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time Sunday. The house had many dozens of people in there, Yossi Gestetner, a co-founder of OJPAC for the Hudson Valley region, told the New York Times. He said the assailant had his face partially covered by a scarf during the attack and the rabbi's son was one of those he wounded, Mr. Gestetner said. Aaron Cohn, 65, was in the rabbi's home at the time. He told the paper, "I was praying for my life. He started attacking people right away as soon as he came in the door. We didn't have time to react at all." Mr. Cohn said that the attacker then tried to enter a synagogue next to the house, but people inside had locked the door. Local police said the attacker, who has not yet been identified, would face 5 charges of attempted murder and 1 of burglary. In Israel, President Reuven Rivlin expressed his shock and outrage at the attack. "The rise of anti-Semitism is not just a Jewish problem, and certainly not just the state of Israel's problem," he said in a statement. "We must work together to confront this evil, which is raising its head again and is a genuine threat around the world." Steve Gold from the Jewish Federation in Rockland County said the U.S. had failed the Jewish community. "My parents were Holocaust survivors and my father made me promise to do what I can to make sure it never happens again. Today I can say I failed my father. The U.S. has failed my parents and all Holocaust survivors. This cannot continue," he said. The attack follows a series of anti-Semitic threats and attacks in and around New York City. On Friday, Mayor Bill de Blasio announced extra police patrols in 3 areas of Brooklyn. Responding to the attack in Monsey, Mr. de Blasio said he could not overstate the fear people are feeling right now. "We will not allow this to become the new normal. We'll use every tool we have to stop these attacks once and for all," he said. The Jewish holiday of Hanukkah marks the victory of Judah Maccabee over the Syrian Greeks in the 2nd century BC and the recapture of Jerusalem. Are anti-Semitic attacks on the rise in the U.S.? On Friday, New York City Police's Hate Crimes Unit said it was investigating 8 anti-Semitic incidents reported since the 13th of December. They included a threat by a man who walked into an Orthodox Jewish community organization's headquarters in Brooklyn and threatened to shoot someone. In another incident, a 30-year-old woman reportedly slapped 3 women in the face. New York Police Department Commissioner Dermot Shea has said hate crimes in New York City are up 22% this year. You see a swastika being drawn, you see a brick being thrown through a window, you see a woman walking down the street with her kids and having her wig ripped off, he said. Earlier this month, officials in New Jersey said a gun attack that killed a detective and 3 people in a Jewish supermarket was being investigated as potential acts of domestic terror, fueled both by anti-Semitism and anti-law enforcement beliefs. In April, a gunman killed a female rabbi and wounded 3 people at a synagogue in San Diego. That attack came exactly 6 months after the deadliest anti-Semitic attack in U.S. history, when a gunman killed 11 worshippers at the Tree of Life synagogue in Pittsburgh.